8 athletes, 1 final, and a margin between first and third place of 32 thousandths of a second. The girls' U2100 meter hurdles at the 2025 CARIFTA Games in Port of Spain had everything you'd want in a championship race. Jamaica fielding 2 genuine medal threats, Barbados with an athlete who'd been building momentum all season, and conditions, a headwind of -0.8, that would test whether these juniors could execute under pressure or just survive it. Tiana Marshall of Jamaica came in as a contender, not a certainty. Brianna Davidson, her teammate, had been clocking aggressive times in the build-up. Maya Rollins of Barbados had shown composure in rounds that suggested she could run a smart final. Aliana Anderson of the Cayman Islands had technique that made her dangerous if conditions aligned. What makes this race worth rewinding is not the winning time. It's what the camera caught that the clock cannot explain. One athlete started with the most aggression in the field. Another started with the most control. By hurdle 8, those two choices had produced completely different races. Pay attention to what happens from the gun through the third barrier. That window decides everything.
Gianna Paul finished ahead of Janae Gans, last year's Austin Seeley Award winner. Janae also came in on the weekend for this event. She was competing in the US.
Alexis James is the record holder, 13.06, set in 2023. There's the lineup. Harewood, Anderson, Marshall, Swindle, Davidson, Rollins, Paul, and Dean. Jamaica and Barbados with 2 in this final. We start in lane number 1. Alika Harewood, 6 fastest in qualifying at 14:29. She'll have to go faster to challenge for a medal here. Aliana Anderson of the Cayman Islands, she's delighted to be here, 14:36 to qualify, soaking up the adoration of the crowd. In lane number 3, she's never won a CARIFTA individual medal, 13:33 her lifetime best, fastest in qualifying at 13:72. She's the favorite, Tiana Marshall of Jamaica. This young lady secured a bronze medal last year with a wind-assisted 13:95. She is the USVI National Under-20 record holder at 14.15. That record is under threat here. Outside of her, twice an under-17 100 hurdles champion, Brianna Davidson of Jamaica. She's the co-favorite, second fastest in qualifying at 13.73. In lane number 6, Maya Rollins, who we told you about, 13:45 for her this season, a personal best done at the Duke Invitational. Can she go faster here after a 13:87 first round performance this morning? Gianna Paul, brilliant last night in the long jump, beating the Austin Seeley Award winner Janae Gans to the gold medal. She's not favored for a medal here, but maybe she will be spurred on by the crowd to something special. And on the outside, Dominique Dean of the Bahamas, outside the medals at 400 hurdles. She's on the outside. 14:37 coming in. She's hoping for a fantastic run to try and get on the podium. The favorites, though, in the middle lanes. Maya Rollins, Barbados, the 2 Jamaicans, Marshall and Davidson, and Swindle of the US Virgin Islands. The 3 medals are expected to come from those 4. But this is a championship, and they have hurdles in front of them. Under 20 girls, 100 hurdles final. Off they go. Marshall responded to the gun quickly. Davidson inches ahead. Rollins left back for Barbados. It's Tiana Marshall ahead of Davidson. Rollins is rallying and might have gotten silver for Barbados. But it's Tiana Marshall. Her long wait for a CARIFTA individual medal turns into gold in Port of Spain, and that was never close. 13.50. Maya Rollins of Barbados had so many issues during that race, but somehow she was able to hold her composure, and I think she snatched the silver medal. Although we're awaiting confirmation. Yes, she did get the silver medal, 13.80 for the Barbadian. She did not travel all the way from Virginia for nothing. And Brianna Davidson, the two-time under-17 champion, has to settle for bronze at 13.82.
Great run by Marshall to win it. But tell you what, second and third, it could have been very different. The sixth hurdle turned out to be a problem for both. As you can see here, three of them responding well. Hurdle knocked over, and they would both knock over the sixth hurdle. That seemed to just unsettle them a little bit, but good composure to come back and claim the medals.
The race for gold could have been so much closer as well had Rollins not tumbled early in the race. How she recovered will amaze you for sure. And to recover well enough to finish second and beat a world-class competitor as good as Brianna Davidson is pretty impressive. Jamaica won 3 this time around, led by Tiana Marshall, 13.50, negative 0.8 meters per second, the wind speed. Maya Rollins of Barbados gets silver at 13.80, Brianna Davidson bronze at 13.82. Aliana Anderson of the Cayman Islands with a big personal best.
13.50 seconds, into a headwind of minus 0.8 meters per second, at the under 20 level in a championship final. Most analysts watching that clock would call it a solid performance. What they'd miss is that the margin between first and third was just 32 thousandths of a second, and that gap had almost nothing to do with speed. Tiana Marshall won this race before she ever left the ground on hurdle 1. The question is, how? And the answer lives in the first 40 meters. The girls' U2100 meter hurdles final at the 2025 CARIFTA Games in Port of Spain brought together 8 athletes with genuine medal expectations. Jamaica fielded 2 entries in Marshall and Brianna Davidson. Barbados sent Maya Rollins. The Cayman Islands had Aliana Anderson. The wind reading of minus 0.8 told you conditions would be demanding, not punishing, but the kind that separates athletes who rely on raw speed from those with stable mechanics underneath. Here is the part that doesn't make sense on the surface. The athlete who started most aggressively did not win. Davidson drove hard from the gun, posture aggressive, cadence immediate. By the second hurdle, she looked capable of taking the whole race. Marshall's start was quieter, sharper in reaction. Her block clearance registered around 0.14 seconds, but deliberately restrained in those first 3 acceleration steps. She did not try to be first over hurdle 1. She tried to be best over hurdle 1. That distinction, being fast versus being positioned, is the central tension of the sprint hurdles. In Port of Spain, it played out across 8 barriers in a way that will likely shape how these athletes train for the next 2 years. What this race demonstrated so cleanly is something coaches have argued for decades. In the hurdles, time lost in the air cannot be recovered on the ground. A sprinter who clears a barrier 2 centimeters higher than necessary spends roughly 3 to 4 thousandths of a second longer in flight. Across 10 hurdles, that is 30 to 40 milliseconds, nearly the entire margin separating first from third here. Marshall's clearance geometry was the defining feature of her race. Her lead leg tracked forward with minimal lateral deviation, arriving at the barrier in a direct, low trajectory. Clearance height above the 84-centimeter barrier appeared no more than 8 to 10 centimeters. Her trail leg snapped through quickly, knee driving close to the hip, which repositioned her center of mass over her front foot within 1 to 1.2 steps of landing. That rapid repositioning is what lets a hurdler attack the next approach, rather than re-establish rhythm. Between hurdles 3 and 6, the phase where inter-hurdle mechanics either compound or fall apart, Marshall held an 8-step pattern at roughly 4.8 strides per second. That is the signature of someone who trained this segment specifically, not someone relying on speed to carry them through. Davidson's race tells the inverse story, and it's worth sitting with. She was not technically flawed at the start. Her first 2 hurdle clearances were aggressive and confident. The problem was that aggression without margin has a cost, and in sprint hurdling that cost is deferred, not avoided. By hurdle 5, her posture had shifted slightly upright. Her trail leg, sharp in the opening phase, began lagging marginally behind her center of mass. At hurdles 7 and 8, the disruption became visible. Small stutters in the approach, fractionally higher clearance, a trailing leg that was 1 frame late. What do you think caused that breakdown? Physical fatigue by the back half? Or did the aggressive start burn through Davidson's technical reserve too early? Drop your read in the comments. There's a real debate among coaches on this one. Rollins found a different path to the podium. Her start was conservative, reaction time slightly behind Marshall's, drive phase more cautious. She ran her best athletics between hurdles 3 and 7, where her rhythm was even and her clearance controlled. The detail worth noting is that she managed spacing rather than attacking it. Approaching hurdles 4 and 5, there were subtle adjustments in her stride pattern, micro-corrections indicating she was computing distance rather than trusting trained mechanics. That cost her 2 to 3/100ths of a second in the middle phase. But her composure held, and she avoided the technical deterioration Davidson experienced in the final third. That earned her silver in 13.80. Anderson in fourth, running 13.94, was technically the most consistent athlete outside the podium. Her clearances were controlled, her rhythm even across all 10 barriers. What was missing was not discipline, it was projection. She never hit the forward lean of the first-place finisher, never generated the hip drive that translates into horizontal velocity between barriers. Technical consistency alone, at this level, does not produce medals. It produces good times. That is still worth something, but the ceiling is lower. The headwind deserves its own moment. Minus 0.8 is classified as marginal. It doesn't invalidate the times, but it amplifies technical inefficiency. Every unnecessary centimeter of air clearance costs more into a headwind. Every moment of upright posture bleeds more horizontal momentum. Marshall's efficiency meant the wind hit her less. Davidson's openness in her later clearances meant it hit her more. The conditions didn't change the result, but they made the technical gap between first and third harder to close. Here is what this race teaches you to watch for in any sprint hurdles final. The gun does not tell you who will win. Watch the first hurdle approach, specifically, how much the athlete's path changes in the final 2 strides before takeoff. Any lateral adjustment, any micro-stutter, means the approach was off. Watch hurdles 7 and 8 for trail leg timing. That is where fatigue and pattern erosion show up. And watch how quickly the athlete reaccelerates after clearing. That window is the real competitive battlefield, not the hurdle itself. Jamaica's continued success in junior hurdling is not accidental. It comes from a system that builds technical foundations early and does not sacrifice mechanics for speed. Marshall's performance at the CARIFTA Games was a precise expression of that. Controlled aggression rather than unchecked speed, spatial awareness rather than reaction. We reviewed this race from multiple angles, and one detail kept coming back. The way Marshall's upper body stayed relaxed from hurdle 8 through the finish line. While others tightened, she kept projecting forward, maintaining stride length when the pressure to muscle through was highest. That relaxation, at the end of a championship final, is not talent. It is trained behavior. If you want to understand sprint hurdling at a high level, build that image. When you're watching CARIFTA, World Athletics U20, or any future junior championship, look for the athletes who seem easiest over the barriers. They are usually the ones the clock rewards. Subscribe for more race breakdowns and tell us which junior athlete you want us to analyze next.